Hello, welcome to another presentation from qualityInspection.org. Today we're going to look at how to set up a receiving inspection. So this will include the checklist, procedure, and reporting form. So why are we interested in receiving inspections? If you're importing, you're probably accustomed to conducting pre-shipment inspections. So this is something like a during production inspection or a final random inspection. These are highly recommended, but what about inspections at an even earlier stage? Well, this is where receiving inspections fits in. They're also called incoming quality inspections. By doing them, you're actually inspecting the quality of the inputs, so that's the materials, components, or even services that are going into your products. If product quality and safety is important to you, receiving inspections probably make sense. And they're well used by large companies all around the world. So if we're going to set up a solid receiving inspection, what considerations do we need? Well, there's 5 actually. So first of all, we need a set of requirements. Then we need a way to focus on the most important criteria. Third, we need a procedure to follow step by step. Fourth, a way to report findings and help with traceability. And fifth, a way to drive improvement in our suppliers if and when needed. You may be thinking that this could be similar to final pre-shipment inspections in some ways. The way that receiving inspections are built is pretty similar, but they're happening at different times. Actually, the closer that your pre-shipment inspection is to your receiving inspection, the better. If these are aligned, you're giving yourself the most chance of catching issues before any products are shipped, starting with what goes into the production and then ending in checking products before they're loaded into trucks to be sent to you. So we're going through each of the 5 considerations one by one, and the first one is, how do we define receiving inspection requirements? Well, you're going to need a checklist that's based on the product specifications and other elements. If you've already got an approved sample of each item you inspect, that's going to be good. You need to note that certain aspects of the requirements can't be communicated in written specifications, so that's the exact color, the touch, the feel, etc. The inspectors are going to need to know about this. This is where a sample is going to really help. Second, how do we identify the most critical parts and the highest risk? This is a very important step because you don't want to waste an inspector's time on checking a lot of low-risk batches and criteria which turn out not to be very important, because that time equals your money as well. So based on the risk that you see, there are different ways to spend less time on lower risk batches. So if it's based on the product risk, we're going to reduce the inspection level. If it's based on the supplier risk, we're going to reduce the inspection severity. So when we're talking about product risk, you probably need to look at the overall risk to your business. You're going to determine risks by speaking to customer-facing staff, your quality manager, some people involved in production. All of these people's feedback is going to give you an idea about product risk. If we look at the example of brake systems in American automotive factories, these are going to be required, but smaller, more trivial elements probably won't need to be checked. You're going to know what's most risky and what's critical to quality for each product from your designers and, as I said, from feedback from some of the other staff. Supplier risk is more difficult to assess. Here are some typical KPIs that you might follow when it comes to supplier quality performance. So you've got percentage of past inspections, percentage of defectives, the number of corrective action plans requested in the past, percentage of corrective action plans that were not closed fully. And so when you put all of these together, you're building a picture of a supplier's past performance, their overall attitude, And this helps you to decide which ones you can trust. 3, what procedure do you follow in your incoming inspection then? Here are the basic steps you'll probably be following for picking samples at random. So first of all, get the delivery plan or notes which indicate what needs to be checked. 2, get the not checked yet parts in one area. 3, count the quantity. 4, pick samples randomly. 5, conduct the inspection. 6, set aside defectives, classify them and count them. And finally, 7, if the batch is accepted, have it moved into the checked and OK area. If it's accepted, but there's a special note for production, for example, 100% check needs to be made on a certain point, make sure that that's seen and followed by the correct people. And if it's refused, take the correct action. So that could be sending it back to the supplier. 4, how to report the findings. If this becomes a regular thing and you're inspecting the same product type over and over again, it's going to help you to prepare a report template that includes the checklist. It's also possible to automate this. The reporting that you do will become part of traceability records, so you're going to need to produce some kind of record. Number 5, how to drive improvement in the supplier base. We're using what we've been collecting, which is the data. This is going to need to be passed to colleagues in procurement because they're dealing with the suppliers of the inputs. They probably have some sort of dashboard for each supplier, certainly for key suppliers. The way you're going to spur improvement is by showing the suppliers that your company is tracking the important data. So, for example, like we mentioned earlier, the percentage of defectives that's coming from them, late deliveries, cost reductions, could be things like this. If the suppliers know that this is being measured and they're being scrutinized, you're going to be more likely to get better performance out of them. If there's a very serious issue, it's probably possible to raise a corrective action request. This could be in the form of an 8D. So that takes you through the process that you're going to need to follow to set up a receiving inspection, which will help you to assure that you're getting better quality inputs, so that's components, raw materials, even services from your suppliers before you go to production.